Hey, Stacy, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Oh, thanks, Brian. How much time do you have? No, background is, I think probably the biggest, the most exciting thing right now is we just turned 17 years in August. The company has.
Congratulations.
Journey, depends on the day that you ask me, but it's been a fun journey along the way.
And how'd you get interested in this?
So I started in radio. I wanted to be on TV and news media. Apparently that did not work out because I'm sitting here. I did that for a little while right out of college, then jumped into the corporate world. And that's where all of the coaching happened. That's where I did a lot of training on a variety of topics. Long story short, at one point when I moved to Chicago, I just shared with you 19 years ago, I worked for a company that was strictly presentation skills training. And there was something about it, Brian. I always thought, why am I teaching people how to stand up and present when they're not even doing that for another month or two?
Yeah.
That's when I started to really make the connection of influence is so much about how we show up every day. Shortly after that realization, did a couple more stops in large Fortune 500 companies to do their training, and then started Stacy Hunt Geek.
Cool. Yeah, because I always teach that sales is a performance profession versus just a knowledge profession.
Oh, so true. We do a lot of work with sales professionals, and it's a little bit of a big eye-opener for them when they work with us because we're constantly saying to them, it's not about you turning it on when you've got your big pitch, however people define that. It's about how people are experiencing you, no matter if it's through your emails, through your phone conversations, all of that after time, when your buyer, your client, can really identify with, this is someone I can trust because they're consistent. I never have to guess who I'm interacting with. To me, Brian, that's when influence really starts to have momentum.
And there's been a lot of noise probably about 3 months ago on LinkedIn about you don't have to be liked. And it's like, well, I kind of go through this know, like, and trust sequence because trust is the bandwidth of communications. Without trust, I don't believe what you say, so there's no communication.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about how trust is built through consistency over time.
Yeah.
That's everything, though, from what I was already mentioning, how you show up. To me, it's also consistency in what you're always delivering, how your message comes across, how you make people feel. And to me, you're right. The trust, once that happens, that's where influence starts to get built.
Yeah.
You have to be careful because we also all know it doesn't take much to destroy that trust. It doesn't. To be consistent and to put that effort in.
And where do you fit in when you sell your training? What's the perfect match for you?
Perfect match is anyone who's a sales professional or anyone that's in director to that CEO seat, because they're the profit center.
Yeah.
And if those two areas, especially leaders, if they don't have influence, there's no way that company, anyone below them, will have influence. And you'll see that. You will see that in the culture when we go into a corporation, especially one that we're not that familiar with. You can tell what type of leaders are sitting on top because it's a reflection of their team's communication, and it's a reflection of how their team even just enters our workshops and how they show up.
Yeah. And what is the process you take them through?
We increase individuals' awareness of how much influence they really have rather than what they believe to be true.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bold, but we're bold. And I really believe, people believe that if I've got the title, I've spent many years in this industry, I have influence. I feel comfortable, I have influence. And to me, that's totally false, that it's not a badge of honor that you just get. We do that increase of the awareness piece through, no surprise here, lots of videotaping.
Yeah.
To me, I can tell you all day long to have brevity and to connect with purpose. If you can't see that through the eyes and ears of your listeners, my words are nothing to you. We grow that influence then through a lot of what we believe are skills and techniques through your body language and your messaging. I really think, Brian, influence is both of those. And a lot of times people lean more heavily through my knowledge, my credentials, my LinkedIn profile. I'm like, no. Yes, that's important. You got to have that.
Yeah.
Looks like you agree. To me, it is so much about the experience. So we take them through a pretty in-depth, aggressive workshop. And that's another reason why we tend to target sales and executives, because at that level, the majority of them, they're ready for the push. they're ready to get uncomfortable because they understand that's really where they'll develop.
It reminds me of a story. I had a great year, or a couple years in sales, and then was interviewing for another role. So I had this beautiful resume, and I went in for the interview. That person didn't even look at the resume. And I was just under the assumption that they would want me based off of my history, and that they wanted me to perform. And it's a performance event. That's what an interview is. You can't assume that they scoured the internet looking for all your credentials.
Yeah.
They don't care.
I'm sure we're all guilty of it, right? You remind me, one of our clients, we work with their senior leaders to go through this whole intense yearly process to become the next partner of the firm. One of the pieces that they have to do is they have to deliver this interview questioning as well as talk about their value prop. And it's interesting when I go back to the partners who are part of this panel to make the final decision, who's the next partner, they always say to me, they're thrown by the profile of the senior leader is so strong.
Yeah.
That's what made them become a next candidate. Yet when they get them in front of the panel and now they have to talk and they have to connect, that usually is why the senior leader will not make the next partner. So then they come to us, so that's where we come into play, and they say, all right, can you help them get ready around their whole delivery and their messaging to let them be that next candidate the next year round?
And is it this epiphany of they have to get this outer mindset to see themselves the way other people see them?
It's that, Brian, and I bet you can relate to this too. I was mentoring someone yesterday, and he continuously said to me, he goes, well, if I'm not comfortable, it doesn't work as well. Or if I'm comfortable, it works well. I kept pushing back and telling him, go with the uncomfortable. When you're uncomfortable, not only are you developing, you're probably better than you think you are. We get so caught up in, if my subconscious tells me I'm good, if I feel good, I must be good. And I will disagree that until the day I'm done doing the work that I do. That to me is the biggest hiccup that people struggle. It's the biggest landmine that they continuously step on.
And I think you bring up the good point about being recorded, because that's a fact. That's not an opinion. Your perception of it might be an opinion, but the actual images, the sounds, the tonality, the eye contact, the smile, the distraction, all of that stuff is there. And you have to face it. And that's a very uncomfortable moment.
It is. And I hate it. I mean, what we're doing right now today, when I saw you on my calendar this morning and I quickly looked to see is it video or audio.
Video.
Like, oh man, it's video. But we all go through that. Yet on the flip side, you don't want to walk around life saying, I should have worked harder.
Yeah.
You know, I should have gotten more uncomfortable. It's just do it. I think that's a big difference between someone who's consistently influential and someone who's not, is they just do it. They just turn on the camera and record themselves. They turn on their phones and record themselves. They don't give it thought, versus someone who's not there yet focuses on what's comfortable, perhaps on the excuses that they make for it, and they go the other way. Either you're all in or you're the type of person that pulls back when it gets uncomfortable.
And this, if you look at the mammal mind, being put in front of strangers is one of the most threatening things. And if you look at it from that perspective, it's because you're being judged. You're almost determined, are you in the tribe or are you outside the tribe? You're auditioning, and you feel if you're not going to be successful, the mammal mind's telling you you're going to be food, you're going to be dinner, or you're gone.
That's a good analogy.
But that's really, thousands of years of evolution where we're comfortable talking. We go to a party, we talk to the people we know. And it's that one person that expands outside of that and gets to the other people.
And what's interesting is once you do it, you go and you expand outside, for using the networking as an example, there's always greater results by doing that. And we know it's always better on the other side of being uncomfortable and getting through those hurdles. Yeah. We know that, but apparently it's not strong. I don't know. It's not strong enough of a need that we don't go there, or we sit in that on the other side of the hurdle realizing, I don't want to hit my knee on the hurdle. I don't want to slide across the concrete.
Yeah, well, I think we become comfortable, and we look at it and try and reason with it at the human level instead of trying to build up our unconscious mind like any other muscle. That it's
Mm,
not a destination, but it's a process. You become more and
yeah,
more comfortable. You understand you're not going to die. The
yeah,
worst thing is someone's going to laugh, and if they laugh, it's going to last for a minute, and then life goes on and you move forward, and that muscle becomes stronger and stronger. But I think we have to consciously train it versus just thinking it's a destination.
that's powerful. That's good.
Yeah. And
After our interview, thank you.
well, I've heard some of your other interviews, and I liked a lot of those things. And I'm thinking, like, how do you get to that point? Because what if you can get to the point where you feel like it? Because that's the level. Because people don't do it because they don't feel like it.
Yeah. I think it's practice. I
Practice.
another client this week. It's been a week of stories, Brian. Another was sharing with me this whole idea of discomfort, and we were reminiscing about some of the coaching that we've done together. He said to me, I've really put it into perspective. He's a big golfer. He has a golf coach, and he's analyzing. He analyzes everything, no matter what he does. He said, my golf coach really threw it at my face the other day when I was analyzing, why am I not that good? And his golf coach said to him, you're not that good because you don't practice. And he said, you just started to practice, life's going to change for you. And that's the piece. Then I tie that to practice takes work. But the work we're talking about with growing your influence is it takes muscle memory. It takes conscious effort. And that's hard to be in your own conversation and thinking about, gosh, I wonder if I have brevity right now. I wonder what each word is being communicated and how it's being perceived. Instead, we go through life sprinting. I've got to do this podcast, got to get on an email, have to get off a proposal. We don't just take a moment and focus on everything you send out there that has your name attached to it is either going to grow your influence, grow your reputation, or it's just slowly going to start to chip away at it.
That's it. And I think at the human level, we just focus on, do I know it? Like the golf example, how long does it take to know how to play golf? You take a stick, you take a ball, you hit it into the hole. You now know how to play golf. Doesn't mean you can play golf or you're good at it. And
Yeah.
I think the same is good with influence or communication of any style, is that it is not how, it's doing it, taking it, molding it constantly. But as an expert, where do you begin? Where do you start?
There's two that go side by side. I think you could start either place. First, a little safer step, baby step, is really find someone in your life, that could be someone else in your personal life, that you know is going to tell you the truth, and ask.
Yeah.
Really ask, how do I come across? What do you think is impactful when I communicate? Where do you think I can improve? How can I give more value? However you want to state that. You have to go to someone, though, Brian, that is not going to respond with good, nice job. Right. You're not going to go anywhere with that. And truly, sometimes it really is people in your personal life, your family, your kids. My nieces are constantly telling me, no filter, exactly what I ask. And that's helpful, right? Because if they're saying it, everyone else is saying it. I'd start there. Now, if you've got a little bit more guts, start recording.
Yeah.
You start with audio recording first and just, go to your phone. That's it. Do it on the phone like we're doing right now. I mean, I can see myself, there's some self-evaluation going on internally with me. Video, you have videotape on your phone. I record a lot of my client calls, always with their okay, obviously. And then I listen to the recording. When you listen to your recordings, listen for and watch for, how did you feel during the interaction versus what does reality state? Those two will have the most impact on your development as far as where can you start to take a look.
Well, what has also worked for me and a lot of the people I talk to is grading yourself. Give yourself an A, B, or a C, or a 1 through 10 as a way of judging, how well did I do versus how well do I think I can do? That's
it. And I think that grading system has impact, even more impact when you've got the video playback with it.
Yeah.
Because after you start videotaping yourself, it never gets easy. I'd lie if I said I think it's so easy to do that. I don't think it's easier. I think it gets harder because I get more critical on myself. You get more effective. And that's what we're going for, right? If we're talking influence, we're trying to get to be more effective. As you continue to record yourself, you'll start to see the enhancements. Then be careful, Brian, because you'll get to the point where you've accomplished a skill. Maybe it's brevity. And you no longer start your sentences with so. Well, you're doing that for a while. Now you're recording yourself. You start to hear another word that you're using that is filling space.
Yeah.
This is a lifelong process. That's another piece that makes it tough. You definitely become more aware in the moment of a conversation the more you record yourself. You'll always have something to work on.
And I think having that accountability partner, like you described, because I remember taking a communications workshop a long time ago, and there was this coworker that mentioned something that I never noticed. He goes, "You're not exhaling when you're talking; you're swallowing your words." And he was right, and it changed the way I talked. It didn't feel good hearing it, but it's something you need to hear.
You really do. And I'm so blown away. I have coaches. I've got a business coach. I've got a speech coach to make sure I'm practicing when I'm preaching. When I think I've got it, I send my video to my presentation skills coach, and he rips it apart. Turtle, there's something, again, I am just like your listeners. Even though I focus in this field, there's times I'm clueless. I have no idea what my behavior is communicating all the time until I see it or someone critiques it.
Now, did you look at people on TV or in the media that you say that person's got it?
I do. It's hard to shut it off. I definitely shut it off. It's more the conversation, Brian, when I watch someone, whether it's corporate world or on TV, who has a high, powerful position. And I watch them, I listen to them wondering, how does that work? How do they stay in that position?
Yeah.
I had one of the best stories. This was a CEO that I worked with a number of years ago. We watched his first playback. We're watching it maybe 10 seconds. He confesses to me, "I bet you wonder how I ever became a CEO." And it was really, he had seen what was going on. His executive team is always praising how great he is until he finally had the opportunity to sit down and just watch. And now vice versa, it happens the other way too, Brian, where someone will say to me, "Oh, I'm so nervous when I stand up. I don't have brevity." I'll videotape them and I'm thinking, whoa, you have a totally different perspective of yourself. You're really good. You're on the right track.
Yeah.
Therefore, it can go both ways.
Who do you see that you really admire?
I knew you were going to ask that. I think it's more, the individuals that I really admire are those that are in the speaking circuit that I run.
Okay.
I don't know if that's fair, Brian, because they're...
Anybody that we would know?
I don't know if you would know. I'm really on the spot. Can you tell? I'm not sure.
How about like late night hosts like Jimmy Kimmel? Or...
Oh, well, Jim, yeah. But to me, those folks, what they have a true knack for is they have this personality to connect and engage.
Yes.
That is either you've got some where you're born with that, or you've really done a lot of training to make that happen. And it's the timing of the message, it's the timing of the question, and it's the timing of the humor.
Yeah.
Someone that I think did it really well, whether you're an Oprah fan when she was around more on her TV show, or Ellen, when you watch real top-notch interviewers, they will ask the guest a question. The guest will answer the question. They don't say anything. The guest will say something more during that long pause. I do believe we miss out on the good stuff. The good stuff usually comes out after that pause.
Yeah.
To meet two other individuals. And to me, it's more their style sometimes that they've really honed in on.
That's it. Because early in my sales career, a manager said, watch like David Letterman or Johnny Carson or any of the late night shows, because these people have proven that they're likable. and just watch how they do it. It's a relaxed confidence. It's not cocky or arrogant in any way. And I mean, they're funny, but they're not like Chris Rock funny, hilarious funny, or outrageously funny.
Yeah.
They smile and they
Yeah.
pull you in.
It's the day-to-day funny that they use.
Yeah.
Someone else, since we're talking about comedians, and this is just for fun, if you want a good laugh, if you haven't checked out Michael McIntyre,
No.
his name is spelled McIntrye. He is funny and super, super professional in how he's created his brand. All of his humor is very clean humor. It's humor that we experience in our day-to-day. Even watching him, I watch comedians a lot. I think comedians do a really good job with brevity and timing of the pause, timing of interaction. So if you kind of look beyond and look behind the curtain of the actual joke or the actual story, watch their behavior, their messaging, and then pay attention to their timing.
Yeah.
It's such a true art.
Well, that's it, because their methodology is they try and get a show, a special, which is an hour, but they'll work on that hour for a whole year.
Yes.
And that seems insane, doesn't it? You say, like, how long would it come up? You would think, what, a month? No. It is. Yeah. And you can see, like, on YouTube, Chris Rock, you can see him at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, and it is a different level.
Wild.
Yeah.
Here's where we can take this into our world. Is every day for us is game day. Every day for us is performance day in the corporate world. That's where they get a chance to really practice and sit down and practice. Like a football player, they don't play year round. They need the downtime. Well, since we don't technically have
down, huh?
My whole push is really start thinking and practicing your communication skills in every conversation. You can be practicing the next phone call that you have. Just practice having an open posture, breathing from the diaphragm, for example. Then someone catches you in the hallway at the corporate office. Practice looking them dead in the eyes. If the only time you talk, you're connecting with them. You're not talking to the floor, talking above their head. It's those moments that for us in corporate, those are our practice moments that when game day comes and everyone defines that high stakes conversation differently, you're not thinking about, I wonder what my eyes are doing. It's too late.
Yeah. And that's it. And everyone spends probably 90% of their time on the words. What am I going to say?
Mm-hmm.
Smarter people get to what am I going to ask? And then geniuses are like, how am I going to ask?
So true.
Right? How am I? And the number one problem I see is people are voice activated. As soon as someone starts talking, they pounce. And all of a sudden it becomes this awkward thing. And that people are talking over each other instead of taking that time, like the night, like Jimmy Kimmel does. It's just that the pace, you would think it was hurried, but it's not. It's very methodical, very confident, and sequential.
Yes. Yeah, the other thing they do is let's put all of our PowerPoint slides together first.
Right. It's a crutch, right? It's like, I don't want to memorize the flow or practice the flow. I want this crutch to give me the flow.
One of our clients, he's a VP of sales, and he summarized it best. After he went through one of our trainings, he made the comment, I've realized now that we put all this work into creating the decks, the leave behinds, the messaging, yet the only thing the client sees is how we deliver it. That's we never practice that.
And I'm sure you see this when you go to conferences, right? That you can tell the professional speakers from the people who are just given, what they do.
Yes.
Hands by the side.
Yeah. And it's just suddenly they can't even think, yet they're talking about a topic that they live and breathe every day.
They're passionate about. Now, how do you take this stuff and put it in a book?
4 years. And I, as much as I joke about that, Brian, I truly did want to take my time with it. I wanted to really identify how do we define influence, what it is and what it's not. And through a lot of research, a lot of interviews, we designed a model, because everything has a model, right? So there are model in there. And what we did is we tried this model out in all the work that we do for 4 years to really get this model down. And the model is a triangle. So if you can picture a triangle, each of the side of the triangle in the bottom, it has feedback, practice, and accountability. Those are the 3 key drivers. That's where our conversation started. That's the core. If those 3 are not happening constantly with your communication, your day-to-day, it doesn't matter what's inside the model. Inside the model are several elements that are needed to make sure that you've got influence Monday to Monday. See, we're not talking about having influence. We're talking about having influence Monday to Monday.
Yeah. That's very different. Mm-hmm. Right. Because we don't go on 3 nights a week like a comedian or talk show host. We're on 5 days a week, 8 hours a day.
Yeah. And it's to clarify for your listeners, because some people always say, what do you mean you don't relax on the weekend? Here's what I mean. If I am using filler words, if I'm umming and ahhing all weekend long, especially with this is where we're going into our Labor Day weekend. So 3 days of doing that. And then Tuesday, I need to present or I need to sell to a client. And suddenly I'm not going to use those words. Not possible. That won't happen.
And I think we're using those words today way too much. Not just the filler words, but the actuallys and the really.
There's more.
And all of those. And I made a video about them. And now I've got myself so programmed. Every time I hear someone say it, it annoys me. And it's like, but I try and catch myself before I say them because they don't add anything to the conversation. It's kind of saying, I don't know what to say, so I'm going to say this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think if people can spend more time asking the other person what's important to them.
Just let silence be your answer sometimes.
Yeah.
Brian, it's trusting your competence that you know what to say if you give yourself permission to think about what to say.
Yeah. And what format of the book would you recommend? Is it Audible? Is it paperback? All depends on what.
It's both. Yeah. It depends on your way that you like to learn best. We did Audible. We did an ebook as well as the hard copies that you can find out there. What's nice about the book, and this is just going off of feedback from readers, it's not as if you have to sit down, you have to read that book from cover to cover to get something out of it. You'll see how the model is laid out in the book, that if that's the area of your life right now that you're struggling with or you want to take a closer look at, read the chapter. And I promise you, you will get value out of a chapter at a time.
That's it. I think people look at books like that the wrong way. It's not a novel.
Right? No. No, not even close. You don't want me writing a novel.
Right. It's a skills, a reference book that you pick up, you develop, you put it down, you pick it back up, much like the 7 Habits book. It's like you can read it straight through, but you're not going to create the 7 Habits in a week, right?
No.
It's a lifetime journey. It's a critical element skill that we don't learn in school.
Why is that? I mean, that's a whole nother topic, correct?
It's insane. So many of these things that are mandatory, especially even in MBA school. You get like your legal partners, and
yes.
Typically the person who becomes the leader is the person who acts like a leader. It's
really interesting. I spoke at an event in New York in July, and it was all attorneys. Crazy smart people, super smart. And one thing I had shared with them is, there's more knowledge in this room than I'll ever be able to share with you, which was truthful from my heart. The number of people that came up to me afterwards and said, why did I not have this in law school? It could have helped me with so many of the cases that I needed to support. And
it's just assumed. And they've done studies on doctors and malpractice. It wasn't the performance of the doctor. It was the performance of the doctor communicating with the patient. Did the patient like the doctor? If the doctor didn't build that know, like, and trust and have that rapport, a malpractice suit happened. If he had it, regardless of his performance, it didn't happen.
Oh, we can all relate to that when you're trying to find a new doctor.
Right. What?
Smartest doctor, but when you go to their office and you're thinking, no way. I'm going to work with this person.
And what happens today? Like, because in the U.S. we have a presidential election constantly going on, And every time they talk about a candidate, what is the word they say? I like this person. They don't say, I agree with their policies or I dislike this person. There's no real cognitive processing there. It is an intuitive emotional reaction.
Yeah. I think that's true with everything that we do in our personal life. We go back to certain brands that we love because we always know what we're going to get. We hang out with the people that really make us feel good.
Yeah.
It's safe to say anything that makes us feel good, we'll repeat.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to connect with you and follow you?
Yeah, if you want to grab resources, we throw a lot of resources out there through all the social media platforms. It's Stacy with an EY at StacyHankeinc.com.